Thank you for stopping by the Life of Sassy today and checking out my video. Today I'm going to share with you a what's for dinner. I really hope you enjoy it. If you do, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. This is part of my reorganizing, reclaiming, doing all of the things to try and get back on track with my life. Our dinners have severely suffered because I'll be honest, by the end of the day right now, I'm just done and I don't want to cook. But dinners are important, so here we go. I have two great recipes for you. Let's get cooking. To make my meatballs with mushroom gravy, I have a large skillet that I'm going to heat over medium-low heat with about a tablespoon or so of olive oil. Now remember, whatever dish you use, it does need a lid. Now that my pan is hot, I'm going to add a medium yellow onion that I diced. To my onion, I'm going to go ahead and add 1/8 of a teaspoon of pepper, and I'm going to let this cook until my onion starts to soften, probably about 2 to 3 minutes. My onions have been cooking for about 3 minutes. They've started to soften. Now I have about 8 ounces of mushrooms that I just diced up to be about the same size as my meatballs. I'm going to add those to the pan. And next I'm going to add about a teaspoon of garlic powder. And I'm going to give these a stir and just let them cook for a couple of minutes. My mushrooms have been cooking for about 3 minutes. I've made a well in the center, and to that well I'm going to go ahead and add about a tablespoon of Dijon mustard. Hopefully I can get a tablespoon out. Mine is about to run out, but I do have a spare here if I need it. To my tablespoon of Dijon, I'm going to go ahead and add a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. And now I'm just going to go ahead and mix this in with the onions, and I'm going to let this cook for about a minute. My Worcestershire and Dijon has been cooking down for a minute. I just like to cook it. I find it gives it a better flavor before I go ahead and add the broth. I'm going to go ahead now and add in 4 cups of beef broth. To my mixture, I'm going to add meatballs. You can use homemade or store-bought. We make ours, cook them off, and freeze them. And just personal preference, I have gone ahead and cut them in half. For this dish, we just prefer it. So I'm going to go ahead and add these in. In our case, I think we put 16 meatballs per package, but use whatever suits your family. There's only 2 of us, and that's enough for us. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn this up to high and wait for it to come up to a boil. It has come up to a boil, so I'm going to reduce it to medium-low, pop a lid on it, and we're going to let that simmer for 20 minutes. I'll see you then. My meatballs and gravy have been simmering for 20 minutes. Now I'm going to use Velotine to thicken mine. You can 100% use a cornstarch slurry. But in my house, we always use Velotine. Now, there's no measurement for how much to use. It's more of a feeling. But this is what we're going to use to thicken my gravy. You want to bring it up to a boil. Once it's boiling, you're going to add the Velotine and continue to stir while you add it. Don't worry, I have another box that's definitely not enough. You're going to continue to add it until you start to feel it thicken, and then what you're going to do is you're going to bring it back up to a boil and let it cook for 1 minute and see if it's thick enough or if you need to add more. Now that it's come back up to a simmer, I've just lowered my heat to medium-low, and I'm going to let this simmer for 1 minute and then check the thickness. I've let mine simmer for a minute. This is the thickness I'm looking for, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it off, and then we're going to serve this over mashed potatoes. This meal has become a favorite in our household. It's so quick and easy to pull together. We almost always have all of the ingredients needed on hand, and it's just so warm and cozy on a cold night. I hope you give this one a try. To get started on my one pan fajita bowls, I'm going to go ahead and make the spice mixture. Now, I have tweaked this a little bit to my liking. I don't like super spicy. The original recipe calls for a tablespoon of chili powder. I only use about half a tablespoon. But on the flip side, the recipe calls for a teaspoon of cumin, which I really love, so instead I add a tablespoon. The original recipe will be linked below. Next, it calls for a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne. That's way too much for me, so I'm just going to go ahead and add a dash. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add in half a teaspoon of garlic powder. It calls for a teaspoon of paprika. I use smoked paprika in here, again, personal preference, but that's kind of the joy of cooking. You can change it up however you like. It calls for a teaspoon each of salt and pepper. That just seems like a lot to me. So I'm going to put in more like 1/8 to 1/4. And that's everything for our spice mixture. I'm just going to mix this all up. And once it's mixed up, I can set it to the side and start assembling the rest of our bake. In a mixing bowl, I'm going to combine 1 medium yellow onion that I sliced. As well, the recipe calls for 3 peppers. The recipe calls for 2 peppers sliced. I actually did 3 because I needed to use mine up, and I'm never against some extra veggies. The original recipe, these are left over from dinner last night. The original recipe doesn't call for mushrooms, but growing up we always had mushrooms in our fajitas, so I always go ahead and add some. Plus, I'm always game for some extra vegetables. I also have more over here that are sliced that I'm going to add. Now, in the original recipe, they tell you to also add the chicken, but I like to break it up a little bit differently. I find it works better to distribute the spices. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add about a tablespoon of oil. Give that a quick mix. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in about half of my seasoning mix. I find doing it this way and mixing some of it in with the veggies, the spice mix just distributes better. Whereas I find if I put the chicken in right away and add all of the spice mix, sorry guys, I can't talk, all of the spice mix at once, it seems to adhere to the chicken more than the vegetables. So, personal preference, you can dump everything in and go from there. But now that that's mixed up, I will go ahead and add my chicken. The original recipe does call for chicken tenders, which is what I'm using, but actually normally when I make this, I usually use chicken chunks. I just find it distributes better, but since I do seem to be overrun with tenders right now, that's what I'm using today. This package had 7 tenders in it. I'm going to go ahead and add in a little bit more oil, probably about half to a tablespoon, and then I'm going to add in the rest of my spice mixture, and then we're just going to mix this up until all of the spices are well distributed. Now that that's all mixed up, we're just going to set it off to the side for a minute. Now, in a 9x13, I'm just going to use an oval. You're going to go ahead and add in 2 cups of chicken broth. Now, if you prefer, you can use water. I have used water. It just doesn't give the dish as much flavor, so I do always use the chicken broth, but it's optional. You just need either 2 cups of broth or water. And to my broth, I'm going to go ahead and add in 1 cup of long grain rice. And just shake the pan to try and get as much as you can under the liquid. Now we're going to take our chicken and vegetable mixture and just spread it out on top. I'm going to go ahead and top my baking dish with foil. I'm going to cover this and I'm going to bake it in a 375-degree oven for 50 minutes. There we go, and this will go for 50 minutes, and I'll see you back here then. My fajita bake has cooked for 50 minutes. I let it sit for about 5 minutes before I took the foil off. I'm going to go ahead, give this a stir, and then I'm actually going to pop it in the fridge because I'm going to take it for my lunch this week. I have a couple of in-office days, but when I go to eat it at work, I'll show you how I serve it. Real life here. I forgot to record the finished product. The first day I ate it, I was in the office. I was trying to quickly have lunch in between meetings. I actually took my lunch into the meeting with me. And the days that followed, I also forgot until I was finishing the last bowl and went, oh no, I never recorded that. But all I did was sprinkle some grated cheddar cheese, a dollop of sour cream, and some salsa on top. Mixed it all up and I was good to go. This meal is so good, so delicious. It is one dish and it is perfect for meal prep because it comes together so quick and easy. This will give you 4 to 5 servings. I really hope you give this one a try. Thank you for stopping by The Life of Sassy today and checking out my video. I really hope you try both of these recipes. They are amazing. And I am so happy to be back in the kitchen. It is my happy place, but when life turns upside down, even the things we enjoy tend to go out the window. And for me, making dinner is one of those things. By the end of the day, I am so tired. I don't even want to think about dinner. So my household has been a lot of quick fixes lately, but I'm working on turning that all around. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up so I know you like this kind of content. And if you haven't already, please consider joining my YouTube family by clicking that subscribe button down below. Thank you again for stopping by. I hope you have a wonderful day.